Hey, good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm happy to be here. I'm really excited to see people already commenting in the chat. That's really helpful because it gets more people to be aware of it and to come into the live training where you might be able to meet people. And I just want to point out Tan Wilson's comment because I happen to be looking at chat for a second. And that's exactly the right way to do this this training, right? Is to come in, but be part of the community where you're also reaching out to other people saying, hey, connect with me. I'd love to chat. Mention we met on the training and you guys can connect offline. So Tan, thanks for that great example and welcome to everybody else. We're going to try to get through HHS's FY2023 budget today. It's an overview for government sales people, right? People who are in the business development, capture, proposal side of the house. And how do I take weeks or months of training and push it down into 25 minutes. That's what I'm going to try to do. That's what we're going to tackle today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I'm excited to have you here on our daily LinkedIn Live federal sales training where we teach you process and procedures for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow the process, we achieve the predictable results that we're looking for. And that's what I hope to provide you today is a little bit of the process, a little bit of understanding the how behind the what, right? We all hear that we must do our homework on federal agencies if we want to get in the door, if we want to succeed in there as a government contractor. But how do we do that? I'm going to give you just one small part of the how today by talking about the federal budget and how to dive into it, what to look for. And this is what I do, right? When I help my customers, when I teach new business developers how to sit there and begin to go through this process of research, targeting, and outreach. Well, this is the research portion of it. It's actually a small piece of the research. And we're going to dive into it. I'm hoping to give you really good nuggets. I'm sure I'm going to give you something at least that you take away and go, oh, hadn't thought about that. And if not, reach out to me and I'll sit there and work with you one-on-one until I get you something that you don't know. Okay, do me a favor, help buyers, help me remember who you are. Put your company name, core competency into the chat like a lot of you are doing. Shout out hellos is always great. Let us know who you are and what you do in just a few words so that it begins to stick in our mind. And then I already said this, but engage in the community in the chat. These people who are in the chat with you are part of the government contracting community. They're committed to growing their companies and they're committed to supporting the federal agencies. And it's awesome to be able to have kindred spirits right here in a live event. So take advantage of that. And as I go along, if I happen to say, put something in the chat so I know you're following with me, do that. If you've been here before and you know how I play that particular game where I'm trying to highlight certain points and I forget to say it because I'm moving too fast, put that in the chat as well. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. We're about to go through a fire hose worth of training. In just a matter of 27 minutes. So that's pretty good. I didn't talk too long. Okay, so let me get rocking and rolling. I'm looking at my training, looks good. This caption, I always forget this guy. Apparently I don't always forget it since I just turned it off, right? Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen here. And let me pop over to my PDF. So I'm going to start in the PDFs. I'm going to go through a lot of documentation. HHS is a department, right? When I tell people you need to focus on an agency, I mean an agency that's below this. And so right here are the agencies within the major agencies within HHS. And so if you're under $10 million, for example, I would say pick one and go deep into that one. But today we're going to talk about it holistically and a lot of good stuff. But this is just one example, right? If you're going to go into HHS, I guarantee you can build a $100 million business over time, right? No secrets here. No magic pill or silver bullet. This is all about just hard work. And over time, you can easily build a $50 or $100 million company. I have a friend who did that in CMS alone. And when we follow the process, we can do that as well. It just takes time and doing a lot of the right things the right way. So pick an agency in here as you're looking at what we're talking about. One of the first things I do in the budget here, and this is just an overview, right? The actual budget, I didn't even bother with HHS's because it's so big. I'm actually going to go down into those agencies and show you some of those at that level. But at the overall HHS level, it'll be thousands of pages for the budget. And what I want you to understand is, yes, you should try to read through the agency of choice that you have and understand from a bigger picture what they're doing across the board, because you can see where your efforts maybe help out in other efforts or strategic goals, et cetera. So one of the first things I do is just pop into the table of contents. Obviously, a big fan of that. And in here, I can see that as you look, right, you can see that they're breaking down all those subordinate agencies into highlight reel, if you will. And I'm not going to go into them too much in here because I've got their actual budgets for some of them, and we'll track in there. But I want to look at that table of contents figured out. As I come through, I always look at every single page that's at the start, and sometimes I'll have 20 or 50 pages of executive summary type material. And so I'll look at that material and just see what pops out. So an example is here. I can look at the overall budget for HHS and I can see the split, right? And you can see Medicare and Medicaid count for, what's that, 84% of the budget. Let me pause for 1 second and talk to you about this idea of the budget. We sometimes hear trillions of dollars. The federal government's budget, sure, it's trillions of dollars, but that's not the federal small business contracting world. Our world is $500 or $600 million a year, or $1 billion a year. So $500 to $600 billion a year is what they call small business eligible dollars. That's the pool of money. Forget the trillions. It's the 500 or 600 billion. And then in there, it's whittled way down to your core competency, et cetera. But in here, you can see that HHS's budget is $1.6 trillion. It's a lot of money, but that's not the real world for us. So as we come down, there's something called discretionary spending, right? And then mandatory. And understand an example of mandatory spending in the federal budget is Social Security. Everybody who's over 65 or something like that, right? They get Social Security. I like how I'm too young to know how old you have to be. Anyway, Social Security, though, that's a kind of a mandatory thing. We're not going to participate in that world, that big pool of money that's part of the trillions. And so here, it's $127 billion is what the overall HHS budget is. And you can compare that to VA, which is a little bit higher, Department of Defense, which is $700 billion, I think. So much higher. But remember, they got Army, Navy, Air Force in there. As I come through, I just start highlighting things that pop out to me. And I want to just show you as fast as I can and then mention why I highlight it. So this first thing, right? Here there's talking about preparedness for 2023. And I instantly want to know more about where are you going? I care about my customer. You know, people don't care what I know until they know that I care. And so I care enough to be able to try to understand what are they preparing for in 2023. And as I come down, I can see that they've got different things they're talking about. Here's $200 million for CDC's data modernization initiative. Well, I play in the IT world, cybersecurity, data, cloud, whatever. Certainly in the modernization world or transformation world for IT. And as I look at this, I'm looking at them talking about modernizing public health data systems nationwide that'll last beyond the current pandemic. And so what they're talking about, from my opinion, is when we had COVID going at full steam, there was a lot of challenges with data just across the entire company, all this public health data. And so they're really trying to improve that process. If you're in the data space, this is important to you. And now you want to dig further into that and go, okay, there's $200 million. Where are they spending it? Coming to the next one, the budget also supports CDC in building core public health infrastructure and capacity across all levels of the government with $600 million to create a resilient public health system. What does that mean, right? Am I in that world at all? If you do construction, maybe that's not your world, but maybe they're talking about from an IT perspective, that data modernization. Can I participate at that level? Over here on the right, you see HHS recognizes the importance of advanced research and development and provides $800 million for Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. So the reason I looked at that is two things. I want to understand Biomedical Advanced Research Development Authority, that program office, whatever that is. I want to learn more because I touch in the bio research area. We've got somebody in today's call, I'm sure, who's doing data and AI and emerging technology in biomedical or biotechnology. It's a little bit beyond me, but in that space. Well, if he sees this, then maybe he goes and looks for this Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. But the other big thing is within ASBR, right? And so I want to go look at that agency and see what they're doing. Okay, so let me come back to my one full page here. Big summary there, but the thing I wanted to point out here is, and this is going to be really fast. It's your job to read it, but I want to just point out why these things are so good. Here I start noticing that they're talking about major strategic goals or priorities, strengthening behavioral health, and then they lay out the major programs. Down here, same thing, mental health, and then tackling health disparities. You see that yellow. Hopefully you can see that. I'm not going to zoom in and zoom out, but tackling health disparities. Well, how are they doing that? And then I can look at their major programs. Coming down here, meeting the health needs of the Indian country. Okay, what are some of your activities? Right here, they talk about the budget provides $9 billion mandatory funding for IAH, and I'll show you that in a minute. But it's like, how are you spending that money? Here's another one: improving the well-being of children, family, and seniors. I know there's a lot of people on this call who are focused on healthcare for geriatric healthcare, right, for older people. How does that tie or align with what they're trying to do here on improving the well-being of children, families, and seniors? Same thing coming down, advancing research. You can see these. I'm not going to read them all, except for right here, because I'm IT and modernization, et cetera. Improving departmental health operations. That caught my eye at the bottom. And this thing says core program operations, right? If I go to the next page, I really start digging into a lot more. So let me come in here, right? Core operations that they have at HHS. Here's critical IT and cybersecurity. That's catching my eye because I have customers who are in the cybersecurity space. How can I advise them, or how can they get in there and start figuring it out? The budget includes $3 billion at the program level for information technology, including $600 million, to prioritize cybersecurity enhancement and continue progress in modernizing the outdated Medicare payment systems. If you're in cybersecurity, this seems like a spot. If you're in cybersecurity and you're targeting the HHS, right? This seems like a bit of good news. Now I got to figure out, where are you spending it? How are you spending it? How can I shape how you're spending it? Do you need ideas on how to spend it? I'll give you ideas. I'm going to come back to the top, but I want to stay on this side for a second, on the left-hand side. The budget directs $52 million at the Office of National Coordinator for Health Information Technology. It goes on to talk about it, but I hadn't been aware of that office. Now I'm aware of that office, and they got $52 million. How can I get in there? How can I help them with what their goals are and get a piece of the $52 million, right? One thing I haven't said already, I don't think, is that when I'm looking through these documents, I'm not looking for what you would see typically with a CFO or a CPA, where they look at the numbers and they say, hey, HHS is this much money and this much is going to this snake, so that place. What I'm looking for as a business developer and a salesperson, a capture person, is I'm looking for nuggets that can give me information to understand my customer better, which helps me write a better proposal at the end, right? But I'm also trying to find action items. When I look at this Office of National Coordinator for Health Information Technology, I'm thinking to myself, action item. Go find out who this office is, who the people are in there, what do they do, how do I get in and do an introduction call, right? That's the action item. I'm done. I move on to keep reading the document. But if you do this the way I'm recommending that you do, and the way I do it, you can create 50 or 100 action items that can be spread out over the next few months of business development activity related to what you're learning from the budget. Okay, so here it's talking about $161 million in cybersecurity program, and they put that program in capital P, right? And so I'm like, well, is there somebody heading up the cybersecurity program? Action item. Let me go figure that out. $50 million to implement zero trust architecture and security logging. 2 years ago, I was telling people you should be going into the federal agency full steam on zero trust and use that as your beachhead keyword, let's say, because that was a buzzword everybody in the federal government is going to get attached to. Now it's written right into their budgets. That's good news for anybody who's in the cyberspace, but $50 million more to implement zero trust architecture and security logging, right? How can you go in there and own that space? Right here on the right-hand side, more of this, right? IT and facility needs supported by the non-recurring expenses. I want to look at that. What is that? But here they're talking about HHS is proposing to use $300 million from the fund for various IT and infrastructure projects across the department. So here they're talking about trying to drive it from a department level to the subordinate agencies or their agencies. Well, I want to know, what are those infrastructure projects? Are there things that I can help with? Do I do cabling for infrastructure? Can I get in there and do that? Is there migration to the cloud that's part of that, or is that a whole different world? So there's a lot of activity that you can read in here as you go down, right? And one last thing I just want to show you, and then I'm going to move to a different document, is I'm just still in this summary document, right? This budget in a brief of HHS's overall budget. So here I can see the operating budget by division or those agencies, And if I go to the next page, I can see the discretionary programs, and I can begin to see it broken down. This is good for insight, but you don't need to remember this as facts. But the reason I like it is to just be able to see what are the discretionary programs? How do I begin to speak the language so that when I go in and have meetings, I use similar language that they're using in their budget, for example, that makes me seem like I'm knowledgeable about HHS or Indian Health Services, for example, having that language. So all of this activity, by the way, let me pause for a second. I want to get you to put something in the chat if it makes sense to you, that what I'm talking about is trying to engage your customer, learn about opportunities, understand your customer better by shifting left, right? Not learning when it comes out on SAM.gov and the RFP or even the RFI, but shifting left so you can get into the dialogue before an RFI or source of sought even comes out, right? To get yourself in. But how do you get yourself in? It's being aware of what your customer is trying to do, what your target agencies are trying to achieve, the challenges they face, and maybe how they're going to be spending money. So if you understand this concept of shifting left will make it easier for you to win contracts, put shifting left into the chat for me and give me a chance to drink quick water. Okay, so by the way, somebody remind me at the end. I want to provide you 2 quick website tips, but you can find everything I find. By the way, people ask me all the time, hey, how can I get a copy of those? I am not some hoarder of the documents. I try to share what I can as much as I can. HHS I'll probably share less of because their website is perfect for an agency. Unbelievable. I can find anything I want in there. The one problem I have with them is they don't have a PDF of their strategic plan, but that's okay because I can still go in there, but I wish they did. But they have every piece of information I could want to learn about them and to prepare for meetings that I'm going to have. And so I don't bother pushing out too much of what they have because it's not hidden. It's on their website and it's very easy to navigate. So all this stuff I'm showing today, you can find it on HHS's site. Okay, here, I just wanted to point out this one document here, the annual performance plan. You find these in multiple agencies, right? But when you come in here, you get a quick understanding. Let me zoom in really quick. You get a quick understanding, right, of their mission, their org chart, how the agency's organized, and then these cross-agency priority goals. And so generally what they're talking about is within HHS, you got these different agencies. How are they working together? And then what are the strategic goals they have, the agency priorities? These are vital for you to know, right? When you're talking about going in and helping the government, you can look at their strategic goals, the objectives, the measurements they use. And when you find a document like this, I know I just went through that really, really fast, but when you find a document like this, that's the annual performance plan, then you're going to be able to find a lot of good information. Okay, let me come back. There's 3 documents. I'm probably not going to get to them all, but first I'll show you and then I'll jump into a couple. Here, this is FDA, right? Each one of these subordinate agencies within HHS has their own budget. So HHS, Indian Health, and CMS, I'm going to try to talk to you very quickly about. And again, I'm not trying to give you all the information. The information's in these documents. What I'm trying to do is give you ideas of how you can search these. And you don't have to be some great wizard research expert, research analyst to get good stuff out of here. Come in, just search on keywords, do whatever that is natural on Google, do it in a PDF. Okay, so this particular one, as I come down and I'm looking at FDA, I'm looking at different things. Remember I told you I go through the table of contents, but down here I can see this table of contents and I'm looking at HHS Digital Monetization. And come on, click. Doesn't want to click for me. There you go. So in digital monetization, I can learn a lot because digital monetization, if you don't know, it's this idea of using computers basically to do your job. So how do we begin to use computers more? And then how do we begin to improve the way we're using computers? There used to be this term, just a side note, of cloud first. The government used to say cloud first. And then somewhere along the line, they got experienced and they got lessons learned and they realized it should be cloud smart. And that's what digital monetization is to me, right? We were saying digital monetization being digital first, and now we're saying digital smart. How can we use it the best way? Okay, so as I come through here, I'm looking at a bunch of different things. I instantly see that all these agencies are aligned to the 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience Act. That gives me an action item. I'm going to go read that. I know it seems like overkill, but I'm trying to make millions from HHS. If it takes me a day or two to read that and I don't watch Stargate for 50th time on Netflix, then that's a good use of my time, right? But here it's talking about idea requires data-driven, user-centric website and digital service modernization, website consolidation, and website design consistency in all executive agencies. And you can find those in the CFO agencies, et cetera. But the reason I like this paragraph is when I'm talking to a customer about what I do, I might say the exact same thing, right? We provide data-driven, user-centric website and digital service modernization. I don't need to completely plagiarize that line, but using those words, understanding user-centric, data-driven, understanding the government didn't put this document together and casually throw in data-driven. No, they want their decisions to be data-driven, meaning all that data out there, how do we turn it into information that we can then make decisions? And so looking in here and reading this helps me understand the agency more, but it also actually helps me understand how to communicate what I sell in their language more. Okay, so coming down here, they talk about one of the things I liked is they have this over the next 4 years, HHS will continue to implement IDEA by focusing extensively on the stuff we talked about, right? The reason I like this is because I'm going to create an action item, get into whoever is leading the IDEA efforts for HHS and go, well, is there a roadmap? Do you guys have an actual roadmap out there that we can take a look at that lays out strategically what they're trying to do over the next 4 years? If I go to the VA, if you watch the episode on Friday, I can look at the VA and see their electronic healthcare modernization. Let's say they're going to healthcare or electronic healthcare records. I can look at the roadmap because they provided it in the budget. Well, I could go to HHS and show them the VA one and say, is there something similar for what you're going to be doing with IDEA? By doing that, I will be able to learn a lot more. Okay, so I want to skip that one because we're running on time. Actually, I don't want to go too much further on these two because I got one more thing I want to show you, and I think it's really cool. But keep in mind, every time I come through these documents, I'm able to find things like this upside down org chart. I'm able to come in here and remember I do IT and health records, et cetera. So if I went down here to page 75, which ironically is page 84, I'm able to look in here and see, here's the health IT. The spending is up by 9 million. 9 million? Yeah. So in Indian Health Service, this one agency within HHS, they've got almost a $200 million spend, it looks like, for health IT, right? And as I come down, sorry, I'm going a little fast here. Let me do this. And let me get my little hand. Come on. But as I come down, I'm able to start seeing their major efforts in here. So right here, I can see Health Information Systems, the HITS program, right? A lot of you might actually know it if you're in HHS. But here's National Patient Information Systems. These are big things for me to start looking at. And as I go down through these pages, I'm finding, 5 or 10 of these that allow me to go learn more. And these all become what I consider opportunities to go in my pipeline. It's not just about what's in SAM or GovWin, but it's about looking at this and go, how can I get in there? How can I help? What are the contracts that they have aligned to this program, for example? Who's running it? Those things all come from me just learning about the National Patients Information Reporting System. So NIPERS, it looks like. All right, one last thing on Medicare. This guy has some things I highlighted. Right here, another org chart. Here's Office of Enterprise Data and the people who run it. And here's Office of Information Technology. I'm in the IT space. These two pop up right away. If I was actually in the data space pool, I might actually look at all of these different groups and say, can I come in and do an intro call and see where we might be able to help you use data strategically to drive decisions? What I wanted to show you, though, down here, and this is just kind of gold to me, right? These are the things that pop. Obviously, I'm looking at IT stuff, but the part I really like is down here, these supplementary tables. I can see this programs proposed for elimination. And when I go down there, it'll tell me which programs are going to be eliminated. This helps me understand that I don't want to put too much effort in anything related to those programs because they're going out. What I want to be is part of emerging technology or something that's destined to be here for years. Excuse me. So anyways, that's a quick review of a table of contents that helps me see that to be able to focus my attention, my colleagues and my company's attention on the right things. Okay, so let me come over here. I want to show you one other thing. I didn't show you the NIH budget, partly because it's huge, but also because I wanted to show you, like, when you go in and you start doing your research, you start finding a ton of good stuff. And the things I wanted to point out is like right here, the significant items. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to click on it. And then there's another one that I saw, and I think it might be this one here that I liked. Okay, so this one here, let me come all the way back up to the top. So here, it's just, they're just talking about significant items that they're letting Congress know about, right? And so as I look at this and I start coming down, let me see if I can scroll like this. As I start coming down, I start seeing their major efforts. And if I really cared about getting into HHS, or in this case, NIH, and really owning NIH, then I would look at this with my peers, my colleagues, and I would sit there and decide which ones of these do we think we can play in. COVID-19, no, I don't want anything it's too medical for us or something, right? And as I come down, I can't remember if I saw it up here. I thought I highlighted it, but I like data right here, cancer data sharing, right? I see the word data. I'm like, well, let me go look at that. Maybe I'll circle that and say yes. Other places, artificial intelligence right here, big data. Well, that's my world. Let me go look at it. By looking at these significant items, and this is 148 pages about NIH's biggest programs, basically, I'm able to see, can I fit in there, or do I want to fit in there, or is it worth even me having an intro meeting? And if it is, I'll go have it and find out, is it worth having follow-up activity? And then over here, this one here in NIH, they have all these different centers, if you will, right? And so I think it's like 17, if I recall correctly, in National Cancer Institute. If I come in here, I can look at their budget. They've got their own budget. So as I go through anywhere within HHS, I'm able to find all this information. And the key thing I want you to remember is you can go through this. And if you do the research, and if you make the time to research, you will learn a lot more about the agency you're trying to sell to and to make money from. And you will be able to create a bunch of action items that are business development action items. These lead to you understanding your customer better, building relationships, and identifying opportunities, right? You don't have to wait for a list of forecasted opportunities to come out. You don't have to wait for things to drop on SAM before they get on the radar. If you shift left your activity, using the budget as an example, if you shift left in your activity, then you will find you're able to develop better and stronger relationships within an agency and hear about opportunities more. So hopefully that made a lot of sense, and you were tracking on it. I know it's a fire hose worth of information. So all that information, by the way, it's on, just type in HHS Budget 23, and you'll find the right to the page that lists all the PDFs you could want. The other thing I wanted to point out, just a tip for you who lasted to the end of this training today, is that HHS has its own portal for registering companies that are out there, small businesses that want to do business with HHS. Quick example, there's like, there's about 5,000 HubZone firms, and there's maybe 400 HubZone firms registered. Take the time right now and go register in HHS. You're in this training or you're watching the replay because you want to work with HHS, right? Go register in the portal. It's very minimal effort to get in there, and you can do it pretty quickly in a single day, probably 15 minutes or less to get fully in there. But now HHS, if they're looking for a company like you, they'll look in their portal and they might reach out to you. So that's a little side tip for you. If you're going to do that, say, I'm going to go register. If you found value in today's training, please give us a thank you. Always appreciate that. And by the way, one last thing is, if you haven't connected or joined the LinkedIn group Navy and DIB, Defense Industrial Base, that we created a couple of weeks ago, if you haven't created that and the Navy is a target of yours, go join that group, because that group we're building up to try to provide a lot of information about the Navy and to help with your business development efforts. So a lot of stuff there. I hope you had a good time today. Remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is having fun. I will see you at the next training.